The world of Orin was not known for greatness. It was a small mining colony far from the shining centers of the galaxy. Its skies were often filled with dust from machines that dug deep into its mountains, and its people lived simple lives. For them, the work never ended. Every day the miners carried heavy tools into the tunnels, breaking rock to send raw ore to the distant worlds that cared little for Orin. Tomash was one of those miners. He was young but strong, with hands scarred by years of labor. His days followed the same rhythm. Wake before dawn. Walk to the tunnels, work until his muscles screamed. Return home tired, only to repeat it all again the next day. He dreamed of something greater, yet dreams had little place in Orin's endless dust. One day, while following a new seam of ore, Tomash felt his drill strike something strange. Instead of the dull crack of stone, the sound rang like metal. He paused, confused. He brushed away the dust and saw a faint glimmer. The other miners laughed when he told them. They said it was just an old deposit, nothing valuable. But Tomash could not ignore the strange shine. The next morning, he returned alone. He dug carefully, hour after hour, until the stone gave way to a vast hollow chamber. His torchlight spilled across smooth walls that were not natural. The surface was dark, metallic, and covered with lines that seemed to glow faintly. Tomash stepped forward, his heart racing. He realized he had discovered something hidden, something meant to remain buried. The chamber was larger than any hall he had ever seen. At its center stood a massive figure, silent and still. It looked like a giant of iron, shaped with arms and legs, but far too perfect to be made by miners. Dust coated its frame, yet even under that cover it radiated a strange power. The air felt heavy around it, as if the machine itself was holding its breath. Tomash circled it slowly, unable to look away. The machine's head was bowed, as though it had been sleeping for ages. At its feet were symbols carved into the floor, worn by time but still sharp. He could not read them, but he felt their meaning. This was not just a machine. It was a relic from an age when humanity had dared to build wonders that reached the stars. News of Tomash's find spread quickly. Within days, the Council of Orin arrived. Leaders, officials, and curious engineers gathered at the chamber's edge. They whispered in low voices, their faces pale with awe. Some said it was impossible. Others spoke of legends, stories of war machines that had once defended humanity in forgotten ages. Stories told around fires on long nights, dismissed as myths. Yet here stood proof, silent and undeniable. The council ordered guards to surround the site. No one was allowed near without permission. Tomash, however, was kept close. They said his discovery had bound him to the machine in ways they did not understand. He did not argue. Part of him wanted to run, but another part could not leave. He felt as if the machine was watching him, even in its silence. Days passed, and more chambers were found. Beneath Orin's mountains stretched a hidden network of hangars, each one holding machines like the first. Some were larger, their frames shaped like beasts of metal. Others were sleek, built for speed and flight. They all slept in silence, waiting. The people of Orin began to wonder what their ancestors had left behind. Were these machines protectors, or were they weapons of terrible power? Some feared them, saying they should remain sealed forever. Others whispered of alien empires that had long mocked humanity as weak and divided. Perhaps these machines were the answer, proof that humanity had once stood tall against the stars. Tomash listened to all the arguments, but his thoughts kept returning to the first machine he had uncovered. Each time he stood near it, he felt a strange connection, as if the machine was more than lifeless steel. At night, he dreamed of it moving, rising from the dust, and opening its eyes. The dreams felt real, and they left him restless. One evening, as the guards changed shifts, Tomash returned alone to the chamber. He stood before the silent giant, his torch casting long shadows. He reached out and touched the cold surface of its leg. The metal was smooth, far smoother than any ore he had ever mined. For a moment he thought he felt a faint hum, like a heart beating deep within. Tomasz stepped back quickly, his breath catching. The machine remained still, yet something had changed in the air. It was no longer only a relic of the past. It was waiting, and somehow Tomasz knew it would not wait forever. Above the mountains, the wind howled across Oran's barren plains. The people of the colony carried on with their lives, unaware that the discovery of one young miner had set in motion a chain of events that would shake not only their world but the heavens themselves. The machine slept, but whispers of their power had already begun to spread. And whispers, once heard, could not be silenced. The discovery beneath Oran shook the colony. For the first time in living memory, the miners and workers spoke of something other than ore and survival. The machines were all anyone could talk about. Markets buzzed with rumor. Children whispered about giants under the mountains. Some called them guardians. Others feared they were curses from an old age. The colony's council met in haste. They gathered in the great hall at the center of Oran's capital, a plain building made of steel and stone. Inside, long tables were set in a circle, and voices rose in heated debate. At the center sat Myra, one of the youngest diplomats in the council. She had always believed that humanity's strength was not in weapons but in unity. Now she faced a room full of men and women divided by fear and ambition. The leader of the council, Aaron, spoke first. His voice was heavy with caution. These machines must remain sealed. We know nothing of their power. If we awaken them, we may doom ourselves. The old age that built them is gone. We are miners, traders, farmers. We are not warlords. Others shook their heads. A counselor named Joran stood with fire in his eyes. You speak of fear, Aaron. But fear has kept humanity small for too long. Every year alien fleets pass our skies. They laugh at us, demand our ore, and treat us like dust beneath their boots. Now we have a gift from our ancestors. Shall we bury it again like cowards? Murmurs filled the hall. Some nodded at Joran's words, while others looked uneasy. Myra rose slowly, her calm voice carrying across the room. You call them a gift, Joran, but what if they are a warning? These machines were hidden for a reason. Perhaps our ancestors sealed them because they knew the danger they held. We must not awaken them until we understand what they are. The debate grew louder, echoing through the hall. Aaron and Myra spoke of patience, of study, of careful steps. Joran and his allies shouted of pride, of strength, of destiny. The council split into two sides, neither willing to yield. Meanwhile, outside the hall, the people of Oran gathered in the streets. They waited for word of the council's decision. Some prayed for protection. Others dreamed of rising above the alien powers that ruled the stars. For too long humanity had been the weakest voice in the galaxy. The thought that somewhere in the mountains rested the power to change that filled them with restless hope. As night fell, the council still argued. At last, Aaron struck the table with his hand. Enough. We will not awaken the machines. They remain sealed until further notice. Engineers may study them, but no power shall flow through their cores. This is the council's decree. The chamber fell silent. Even Joran sat down, though his glare made clear his defiance. Myra closed her eyes in relief, though her heart remained uneasy. She had won for now, but she felt the tide of opinion shifting. Tomasz, seated quietly at the edge of the room as the discoverer, listened to every word. He was not a counselor, but they had invited him as witness. He could not stop staring at Joran. The counselor's passion had stirred something in him, something he could not easily dismiss. He remembered the faint hum he had felt when he touched the machine's cold surface. It had not felt like danger. It had felt alive. The next morning, news of the council's ruling spread. Many were disappointed. some even angry. Miners in the taverns cursed the decision, saying the council wanted humanity to remain weak. Others were grateful, saying awakening old weapons would bring ruin. The colony divided, the whispers turning into arguments in the streets. Myra walked through the city, listening to her people. She tried to calm them with her words, reminding them that safety must come before strength. Yet even she saw the hunger in their eyes. Hope was a fire that once lit could not be easily put out. A week later, a message arrived from beyond Orin. A small fleet of alien ships had entered the sector. They belonged to the Sci-Fi, an empire known for pride and cruelty. Their presence near Orin had always brought unease, but now it carried new weight. The Sci-Fi demanded an audience with the council. They spoke not of war or trade. They spoke of the machines. When Aaron read the message aloud in the hall, silence gripped the council. The Sci-Fi knew. Somehow, across the stars, they had learned of the discovery. And they did not speak in riddles. Their demand was clear. The machines must be destroyed. Myra felt her blood run cold. If the Sci-Fi feared the machines, then perhaps Joran had been right. Humanity's ancestors had built something that even empires remembered with dread. But if they feared it so greatly, what would they do if humanity refused? Tomasz stood at the back of the hall, his fists clenched. He thought of the silent giant in the chamber, its bowed head waiting in the dark. The council had denied it life, but the heavens themselves now seemed to cry out in warning. The council faced a choice that could no longer be delayed. And in the heart of Orin's mountains, the machines continued their endless sleep, waiting for the moment when silence would no longer hold them. The Sci-Fi fleet appeared in the skies above Orin like shadows stretching across the stars. Their ships were sleek and sharp, their black hulls reflecting the pale light of Orin's sun. People of the colony gathered outside, staring upward with fear in their eyes. They had seen alien ships before, but never this many, and never this close. The air itself seemed heavy under their silent presence. The council met at once. Aaron sat stiff in his chair, his face lined with worry. Joran paced like a caged beast, his anger barely held back. Myra sat calmly, though her hands folded tightly in her lap. Tomasz had been invited again, though he remained near the walls, still only a miner who had uncovered something far greater than himself. A message from the Sci-Fi came through the council's chamber. The image of their ambassador flickered into life above the central table. The alien was tall and thin, with pale skin and dark eyes that gleamed like glass. His voice was cold and filled with authority. People of Orin, you have uncovered what should remain forgotten. The machines hidden beneath your mountains are relics of destruction. They do not belong to you. They do not belong to anyone. By order of the Sci-Fi Dominion, they must be destroyed. The council fell into silence. Aaron rose slowly. His voice was steady, but his tone showed the weight of fear. The machines rest on human soil. They are part of our history. Why do you demand their end? The alien's dark eyes narrowed. You do not understand what you have found. Long ago, these machines brought chaos to the stars. Their power is not for your kind to hold. If you awaken them, you will not only doom yourselves but the balance of the galaxy. Destroy them, or the Sci-Fi Dominion will act. The words struck like a hammer. Joran slammed his fist against the table. Your balance is nothing but chains placed on us. You fear these machines not because they are dangerous, but because they give us strength. Humanity has been weak for too long, and you wish it to remain that way. The ambassador's expression did not change. His voice remained calm. You are children playing with fire. And fire does not ask permission before it burns. Destroy them, or face consequences you cannot imagine. The message ended, and the chamber dimmed once more. The councillors turned to one another, their voices rising again in heated debate. Some said they had no choice. The Sci-Fi fleet above Orin was large enough to crush the colony with ease. Resistance would bring ruin. Others argued that surrender would only prove that humanity had no right to decide its own fate. Myra spoke softly but firmly. The Sarai would not come with threats if these machines were meaningless. Their fear tells us much. Yet we cannot rush blindly into danger. We must learn what these machines are, what they can do. Only then can we decide. Aaron nodded, his face grave. Then let us agree to stall. We will not destroy the machines, but neither will we awaken them. We will answer with patience, not defiance. But Joran shook his head. His voice carried the fire of the crowd outside. Patience will not save us. The Sarai will never leave until the machines are gone. And if they fear us enough to demand their destruction, then we hold a weapon greater than they wish us to believe. We should awaken one, and let the Sarai see that humanity is no longer a shadow. The chamber split in two. Some sided with Aaron and Myra, who called for caution. Others stood with Joran, demanding action. Tomasz listened in silence, his heart torn. He thought of the great machine he had found, its silent head bowed, waiting. In his dreams he still felt it stirring, as if aware of the debate above. Outside the chamber, the colony felt the weight of the Sarai ships pressing down upon them. Farmers looked to the skies with fear. Miners argued in the streets, some demanding the machines be used, others begging that they stay sealed. Children clung to their parents, sensing the tension without understanding it. That night, the Sarai made their power clear. Their ships descended low, their engines rumbling across the skies of Oran. A single blast of energy was fired into the barren plains beyond the city, carving a deep scar into the ground. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. They could destroy Oran at any time. The council gathered once more, shaken. Aaron's voice trembled with frustration. We cannot resist them. To do so is madness. If we must destroy the machines to save our people, then perhaps we have no choice. Joran's eyes blazed. You speak of saving lives, but in truth you are surrendering the future. If we give in today, what will stop them tomorrow? What will stop the next empire that demands our chains? The machines are our chance. With them, we can stand as equals among the stars. Myra rose, her voice calm but filled with strength. And if they are not guardians, Joran? If they are weapons that consume all in their path? If we awaken them, and they destroy more than the Sarai ever could? We walk a path between fire and shadow. To choose blindly is to fall into darkness. The hall fell into uneasy silence. Outside, the Sarai ships loomed like dark clouds above the colony. Inside, the council could not find unity. Fear and hope clashed, each voice certain of its truth. In the mountains, the machines remained still, but the air around them seemed to grow heavier. Tomasz visited again, standing before the silent giant in the torchlight. He placed his hand against its cold surface, and once more he felt that faint hum, like a heartbeat waiting to be released. He whispered to himself, though he did not know why. They are afraid of you. But what if we should be too? The machine gave no answer. Yet in that silence, Tomasz felt a promise. The choice would come soon. And when it did, the heavens would not remain silent. The nights on Oran had grown restless. The Sarai ships hung above the skies like watchful hawks, their black shapes outlined against the stars. The people of the colony carried on with their daily work, but fear lived in every corner. No one could forget the warning shot that had scarred the plains. It was a reminder that the Sarai could destroy them at any moment. Inside the council hall, arguments continued without end. Aaron pushed for surrender, Myra urged caution, and Joran demanded action. The debates circled like storms, yet no clear decision came. The people grew tired of waiting. In the taverns, in the mines, in the markets, whispers grew louder. If the council would not act, perhaps someone else must. Tomasz spent his days wandering between the city and the hidden chamber where the first machine stood. He could not stay away. Each time he looked upon the silent giant, he felt its presence more strongly. Its bowed head and still arms seemed almost patient, as if it was listening to the voices above. He had never believed in fate, but now he wondered if he had been chosen to find it. One evening, he brought a lantern into the chamber. Its warm light flickered across the machine's metal surface. Dust glittered in the air like stars. Tomasz stepped closer, his heart racing. He reached out and placed his hand upon the machine again. This time the hum beneath the metal was stronger. It was no longer a faint rhythm. It was a pulse, deep and steady. Tomasz pulled back, startled. He looked around, half expecting the machine to move. But it remained still, as it always had. Yet something inside him whispered that it was waiting for his choice. The next day, the Sarai issued a new demand. Their ambassador's voice filled the council chamber once more. You have delayed long enough. Destroy the machines within 3 days, or Oren will be reduced to ash. The threat sent fear through the council. Aaron's voice trembled as he spoke. We cannot resist them. We must obey. Joran's anger burned brighter. Obey, and we die as servants. Resist, and we may die as free people. I choose freedom. Myra raised her hand, her calm tone cutting through the noise. If we awaken the machines, we gamble with powers we do not understand. If we destroy them, we throw away a chance that may never return. Either choice is filled with danger. The council fell into bitter silence. No one could agree. No one could see a clear path forward. That night, Tomasz could not sleep. He rose from his bed and walked alone to the mountains. The air was cold, and the stars above seemed sharper than ever. He carried only a small tool pack, the same one he used in the mines. His steps echoed softly through the tunnels as he returned to the chamber. The giant stood as it had always stood, silent and waiting. Tomasz set down his lantern and stared at it for a long time. He thought of Myra's words, of Joran's fire, of Aaron's fear. He thought of the Sarai ships above, ready to crush them. And he thought of humanity, mocked and underestimated for generations. Slowly, he opened his tool pack. His hands shook as he pulled out the instruments. He did not know exactly what he was doing, but the machine seemed to guide him. Panels shifted at his touch. Hidden lights glowed under his hands. It was as if the giant remembered him, as if it wanted to be awakened. The ground trembled. A low hum filled the chamber, growing louder and deeper until it shook the air itself. Tomasz stumbled back, his lantern swinging wildly. The machine's eyes lit with a sudden glow, casting beams of white light across the walls. Dust rained down from the ceiling as the giant raised its head for the first time in centuries. The sound that followed was not like any machine Tomasz had ever heard. It was a roar, deep and powerful, echoing through the tunnels like thunder. The ground shook with each movement as the giant stepped forward. Its limbs, once frozen, now moved with fluid strength. Metal plates shifted, gears turned, and ancient systems came alive. Tomasz stood frozen, his heart pounding. Fear and awe filled him at once. He had done it. The giant had awakened. Above the mountains, the people of Oren felt the ground shake. They looked up in alarm as faint light glowed from the cliffs. Even the Sarai ships shifted uneasily in the sky, their sensors catching the energy rising from deep within the planet. In the council hall, messengers rushed in with frantic reports. Aaron's face went pale. Myra rose to her feet, her eyes wide. Joran's lips curved into a fierce smile. It has begun, he whispered. The giant emerged from the chamber, its towering frame breaking through the stone. Dust and rock fell around it as it stepped onto the plains. Its glowing eyes lit the darkness. The people gasped and cried out, some in terror, others in joy. The legend had returned. From the sky, the Sarai fleet reacted at once. Alarms rang through their ships. The ambassador's calm mask cracked, replaced by sudden fear. He gave orders in haste. Their weapons turned toward Orin, ready to strike. But before they could act, the awakened machine lifted its arm. Energy pulsed along its frame, gathering at its core. A wave of light shot into the sky, striking the Sarai ships with a force that rattled their hulls. It was not a full attack, only a warning, but it shook the fleet to its core. On the ground, the people of Orin stood in stunned silence. Tamash watched from the mountain, his hands trembling. He did not know if he had saved them or doomed them. Yet as the giant stood tall, its glowing eyes fixed on the heavens, one truth was clear. Humanity was no longer silent. The first war machine had awakened. And the stars would never forget it. The awakening of the first machine sent waves of fear and awe across Orin. From the mountains, people watched the giant's glowing eyes scan the skies, as if it had awakened not only to life but to the reality of the Sarai above. Tamash stood at the edge of the cliff, his heart pounding. The hum of the machine beneath him resonated through the ground, vibrating in rhythm with his own pulse. The Sarai fleet hesitated, circling the planet cautiously. Their weapons were ready, but fear had entered their calculations. The ambassador, still projecting his image into the council chambers, spoke with a sharp edge to his voice. "You cannot hope to resist us. Stand down, or your world will burn." Joran's voice cut through the tension as he shouted from the council hall. "They only fear what they cannot control. This is our chance. Humanity has waited for this moment for generations." Myra remained calm, stepping forward to organize the defense. She had spent days coordinating the colony's ships and miners who had been trained in emergency maneuvers. "We do not seek to conquer," she said firmly. "We fight only to defend our home. Every fleet, every machine, every person stand together. Humanity will hold." Tamash returned to the giant machine, his hand resting on its massive frame. He felt a strange connection, as if it understood him. The hum grew stronger, more confident, as if it were ready to act at his signal. For the first time, he understood what the council could not see. The machines were not just weapons, they were protectors. The Sarai fleet attacked at dawn. Their ships descended in formation, energy weapons lighting up the skies. Orin's colony ships rose to meet them, though most were small and weak compared to the Sarai vessels. Tamash watched from the cliffs, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. The giant machine moved with astonishing speed for its size. It lifted its arms, and energy fields flared from its joints, creating a shield that repelled the first blasts of alien fire. The humans rallied behind it. Colonies from nearby sectors sent reinforcements, and the people of Orin joined in with ingenuity. Miners operated artillery converted from old mining equipment, targeting the Sarai ships as they approached. Even the smallest action seemed magnified by the presence of the awakened machine, which moved like a silent guardian, covering every flank. Joran led the attack from one of the colony's fastest ships. He shouted orders, directing smaller squads to strike at vulnerable points in the Sarai formation. His courage inspired the people around him. Where fear might have spread panic, it now drove determination. The first clash was violent but not destructive beyond repair. The Sarai ships found themselves struggling against forces they had underestimated. The machine's strikes were precise, its movements swift despite its enormous size. Energy beams deflected alien attacks while counter-strikes disabled several ships. The Sarai could not believe the power of a single machine combined with human coordination. From the cliffs, Tamash noticed something extraordinary. Other machines, hidden beneath nearby mountains and forgotten colonies, began to stir. Their hums resonated in harmony with the first giant. One by one, ancient war machines rose from their hiding places. They were not yet fully active, but their presence changed everything. The humans were no longer outmatched by the Sarai fleets. Myra coordinated communications between the awakened machines and the human fleets. Though none of the colonists had ever seen these machines in action, their guidance allowed humanity to move as one. The Sarai ships were forced to retreat in formation, regrouping to strike from a distance. Every move they made was countered by the combined efforts of humans and machines. The sky above Oran was a storm of light and energy. The first war machine moved with unstoppable force, shielding ships and striking with precision. Tamash followed its every motion, realizing that it was not destroying for pleasure or rage. It acted with purpose, as if understanding the stakes. Humanity's survival was in its hands, yet it also relied on human coordination. After hours of struggle, the Sarai ambassador sent a new message, urgency in his voice. You have awakened powers beyond your understanding. Cease this action at once, or the consequences will extend beyond Oran. Joran laughed, a sound of pure triumph. We do not bow to fear. Humanity stands for itself. We are no longer the weak species you once mocked. We fight, and we endure. The Sarai withdrew their fleet temporarily, surprised and unsettled. They had not expected humans to wield power in such unity, guided by machines of old. Even their strongest admirals were shaken by what they had seen. Humanity had proven it could rise above expectation, and the first strike of rebellion had begun. On the ground, the people of Oran cheered. They had seen their home protected by machines thought long dead, guided by their courage and unity. Tamash looked at the first giant, the hum now steady and proud. Myra's voice came over the comms, calm and strong. We defend ourselves not for conquest, but for life, for home, for humanity. Stand firm. And in that moment, Tamash realized something that would stay with him forever. Humanity had awakened not only machines of old but a strength that the galaxy had never truly seen. The battle was only the beginning, but for the first time in centuries, humans stood as equals among the stars. The heavens had been challenged, and humanity would not retreat. The skies above Oran were alive with movement. Machines of ancient design had fully awakened, rising from hidden chambers across the mountains and valleys. Their massive frames reflected the light of Oran's twin suns, and the hum of their engines resonated across the planet like the roar of an approaching storm. Humanity watched in awe and wonder, seeing the legends of old come to life. Tamash stood on a cliff, gazing at the scene below. The first giant, now fully operational, led the other machines in precise movements. Each machine carried itself with strength and grace, as if they had never slept. Tamash could feel the hum of power through the ground beneath him. It was a rhythm that matched the beating of human hearts, a sign that the bond between people and machines had become real. From orbit, alien empires had noticed the rise of humanity's power. The Sarai were not the only watchers. Other distant fleets, long confident in their control over smaller human colonies, paused in their travels. Communications between their commanders were filled with concern and disbelief. The humans, once considered weak and divided, were now united with machines that rivaled the might of entire fleets. Myra coordinated her forces from the council hall, issuing calm and precise commands. She had learned quickly how to guide humanity and its awakened machines. Colonists who had once feared for their lives now stood ready to defend Oran and nearby colonies. Miners, engineers, pilots, and diplomats all worked together, forming a defense unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Joran piloted a ship alongside the first awakened machine. He shouted with exhilaration as he guided small squads of ships to intercept alien scouts. "This is our moment," he cried. "We have waited too long for the galaxy to notice us. Now it will." The Sarai, observing from their fleet above, felt a fear they had not expected. These were not reckless humans acting out of desperation. They were organized, brave, and backed by power that had long been forgotten. Their weapons struck the machines, but the attacks were met with precise countermeasures. Energy shields flared, and powerful pulses deflected blasts back into the void of space. One by one, more alien fleets arrived, drawn by reports of humanity's sudden rise. Armadas from distant empires appeared on the horizon, their commanders curious and cautious. They had underestimated humanity for generations, believing their colonies to be weak and fragmented. Now, they realized that humans had awakened not only machines but a unity that rivaled any empire. From the surface, Tomasz watched as the machines moved in perfect coordination. The first giant led the others, communicating silently with gestures and energy signals. Each step they took reshaped the battlefield, forcing alien fleets to rethink their approach. Orin was no longer a single colony under threat, it had become a beacon of human power. Myra addressed the council and the pilots via comms. We are defending not just Orin. We are showing the galaxy what humanity can achieve. Stand strong. Protect your home. Protect each other. Humanity is united, and that unity will carry us forward. The people responded with courage. Ships moved as one. Pilots followed instructions flawlessly. Engineers kept machines operational even under attack. Every person, from the youngest to the oldest, became part of a force that had not existed in generations. The awakened machines were not just tools, they were symbols of what humanity could do when it believed in itself. As battles unfolded in orbit and above the plains, the heavens themselves seemed to respond. Storms of energy and light danced across the skies. Aurora-like glows shimmered where machine energy fields met alien weapons. Meteors streaked past, as if the universe itself had taken notice of humanity's rise. The stars were no longer distant and untouchable. Humanity was reaching for them, and the galaxy could not ignore their presence. Tomasz realized that the awakening had changed more than Orin. It had awakened hope across colonies and inspired courage in every human heart. The Sarai and other empires had underestimated humanity for centuries. Now they knew that humans were a force that could not be dismissed. Above, the first giant stood tall, its eyes glowing with a brilliant light. Its massive arms lifted toward the sky, and energy pulsed outward in waves that reached even distant ships. It was a warning, a promise, and a symbol. Humanity had awakened, and the heavens had taken notice. In that moment, Tomasz understood the truth. The machines were not just guardians. They were a bridge between humanity's past and its future. And with them, humans could no longer be dismissed as weak or small. The stars were watching. The galaxy was changing. And humanity had begun to rise.